The Western Wall is one of the remaining walls of the Temple Mount, not of the temple itself, dating back to the end of the Second Temple era. It was part of a massive renovation of the whole Temple Mount and temple structure made by King Herod starting 19 BCE. Now, although the Temple Mount itself, where the temple stood, is the holiest site in the Jewish religion, but because of halachic restrictions of entering the Temple Mount, or at least most of the Temple Mount, there's a whole discussion, differing opinions about where one may enter. The consensus of most of the halachic opinions is that we don't know, so therefore we are not permitted to enter at all into the Temple Mount because we are not ritually, spiritually clean. Therefore, the Western Wall became the holiest place and site where Jews are permitted to assemble and pray. The question is, there are still parts of the other three walls that date back to the end of the Second Temple era. What is so special about the Western Wall? There are a number of reasons, and I'll share with you some of them. One reason is that the Western Wall is the closest wall to the Holy of Holies in the temple, which was located on the western side of the temple, closest to the Western Wall. Another reason is that the sages specifically prophesied about the Western Wall, and they stated that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, will never depart from the Western Wall even after the temple's destruction. Because of this prophecy, this endowed the Western Wall with eternal sanctity. It is also a symbol of the eternity of the Jewish people. Just like Jerusalem was attempted to be destroyed so many times, but the Western Wall still remains intact. Similarly, even though the Jewish people were attempted to be destroyed so many times, we remain eternal. There is also a Jewish legend that says that when the temple was built, the four walls were allocated to different sectors of the Jewish community. The Western Wall was allocated to the poor, and they had to work very hard to build it because they couldn't afford to hire laborers to do it for them. And when the enemies came to destroy the temple, the legend tells us that the angels came down from on high, spread their wings around the wall, and said, "This wall will never be destroyed because it was built by the poor." Some interesting facts about the Western Wall. In its entirety, the remaining wall of the Herodian temple complex stretches for about 488 meters. Most of it is hidden by medieval constructions that are built on its length. The exposed area that we know of, the prayer area that faces the plaza, is 57 meters long. There are two other exposed areas. On the southern part, there is an exposed area of 80 meters, which is only separated from the prayer area by a small stretch of archaeological remains. There is also another exposed, much shorter area called, near the Iron Gate, called the Little Western Wall. The total height of the Western Wall is 32 meters. There are 13 meters underground and 19 meters above ground. There are 45 courses of stone. There's 17 underground and 28 above the ground. The stone courses underground date back to the Second Temple era and the Herodian period. Only the first 7 layers of courses of stone above the ground date back to the Herodian era. They are distinguished by the large stones with indented borders. The next layer up dates back to the smaller and plainer stones that date back to the Byzantine period. The next layer up dates back to after the Muslim conquest in the 7th century, and the topmost layer was built and financed by the famous British philanthropist Sir Moses Montefiore. As we are now in the period of the 9 days, where we mourn the destruction of the temple, may Hashem hear our prayers, and may we all merit to see the rebuilding of the third temple still in our days. Thank you.